Welcome back. So let's set our sights on the UN General Assembly, the 80th edition of the UN General Assembly, which is holding amid deep divisions, trade tensions, threats to democracy, even wars. And amid all of this, Nigeria is participating, and the Vice President, who is representing President Bola Tinubu, has, among other things, called for Nigeria to be represented at the Security Council of the United Nations. Let's examine the implications of all of this. And joining us on this segment is Professor Bola Akinteriwa is a diplomat and former Director General of the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. He joins us virtually this morning. Prof, thank you so much for coming through and for making the sacrifice to be up this early. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you. Good morning to you all.
Let's first of all examine Nigeria's call for representation at the UN Security Council. Of course, this comes with a lot of responsibility, and if you examine the functions of members of the Security Council, among other things, is also to contribute to peacekeeping operations. When you consider, Nigeria's own domestic responsibility as far as security is concerned, do you think Nigeria is well prepared and well positioned for that responsibility?
Thank you for the question. I'm thanking you for the question because the question compels me to go back to history. Nigeria is more than well prepared. It is not a big deal. Nigeria has always been contributing, to the United Nations peace support operations. By peace support operations, we mean peacekeeping, peace enforcement, and peace building. The three in one. Right from the time of independence in 1960, Nigeria was actively engaged in the conflict in the Congo. Nigeria is there. When you look at the requirements, the definienda, the qualifications to qualify to be considered to be a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, the first criterion there is having participated actively in UN peace support operations. And I can tell you that for more than 3/4 of the UN operations, Nigeria has been actively engaged, not only in Africa, globally. First qualification. When you are talking about having the capacity to engage in all this, what is happening is simply that those countries that are claiming, that are purporting to have contributed more actively than Nigeria, we have the category of the free willing states. They do not even allow the UN to function properly. Whereas Nigeria has always taken the initiative. Please, you can remember ECOMOG 1, which was on Liberia, ECOMOG 2 on Sierra Leone. It wasn't the making of the UN, not even of the big powers. The big powers were shocked, quote and unquote, terribly shocked. They never expected Africa in general, Nigeria in particular, to have succeeded, to have led the African people. Now, the second level of analysis is this. When you are looking at the means, the capacity to do and undo, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi made it clear that you can act very well, effectively internationally, without having to have all the means, 100%. That we can capitalize on our human resources. We can capitalize on our intellectual resources to do and undo. It was within this particular framework that he suggested the CMP, that is, Concert of Medium Powers. Concert of Medium Powers was largely predicated on the belief that let us share ideas, let us provide leadership for thinking, for intellection. Intellection is looking at the dynamics, of achieving ultimate objectives. That the intellectual resources are there. So if you consider this, that is one approach again. As of today, we have Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tuga, the current Minister of Foreign Affairs. He has come up again with the idea of 4Ds as a doctrine, as a diplomacy, as pillars to have the status of strategic autonomy in international relations. What is strategic autonomy? Strategic autonomy is synonymous with self-reliance. Self-reliance in terms of military strength, economic vibrancy, political stability, welfare, well-being. Now, we are talking about foreign policy ground strategy. Foreign policy ground strategy in such a way that when we are talking about peacekeeping the world over, when we want to interfere or intervene, we will have, the capacity, the do's and don'ts. We will independently take decisions. We will not be dependent on anyone. So if you ask me, do we have the means? I would say yes, more than that. The only thing is that we have not been exploiting them. We are not taking the advantages. Okay, look at you at Channels Television. Look at the comments that have been made about the media in Nigeria worldwide, that the media in Nigeria is the most vibrant. Is that not a qualification? It's part of it. So when you are going for peacekeeping mission, it is not the military, manu military aspect. You have the military component, you have the social media component, you have the economic component, you have the cultural component.
All right, Prof.
And in all this, we only need to harness them. I think we have the means to do so. And if you permit, let me tell you, in 2005, especially March 2005, when Olusegun Obasanjo was the chair of the African Union.
Prof,
that was the time. Yes, okay.
Prof, I'm so sorry, and I hate to break your flow of thought. It's always a delight to listen to you do this analysis and commentaries. And I missed that. I enjoyed some of it last night when we had that phone call and conversation last night. So, but you have emphasized the fact that we have the capacity, we have the resilience, but there are those who query the absence of Mr. President at such a high-level meeting of world leaders. They argue that perhaps this would have been his second meeting at the assembly. They argue that perhaps if he was on ground, he could have emphasized those meetings, the need for a place for his seat for Nigeria at the UN Security Council. They argue that as well. Perhaps we would have seen him engage more with the big boys, the Donald Trumps of US, the Emmanuel Macron of France, and all the world leaders, compared to what the vice president, with all due respect to him, and some of the meetings he has had to hold in the last 2 days. I wonder how you respond to that, Prof.
You see, I quite agree with your analytical approach to it, in the sense that in international protocol, in international relations, in international law and relations, at those 3 levels, you see, water must always find its own level. That's what we have been taught in chemistry, ordinary level chemistry. Water will find its own level. When you are not a president of a sovereign state, the extent to which you can meet with the sovereign leaders, no, you must go, operate at a particular level. In diplomacy, when you go to any reception, for instance, you cannot have a top secretary going to sit or discuss with a minister counselor. You don't do that one. When you are a councillor, you try to find your camarade, your level. So in this case, a vice president going there cannot easily interact with the people who are senior to him. So at that level, I agree with you. But when you look at the other aspect, why is our own Bola Ahmed Tinubu not going? It may be a strategy itself. One, at the level of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an unpredictable president. Donald Trump thinks after action. He thinks after action, but he does not think well before action. He's a president that can thoroughly embarrass our own president, find unnecessary excuses for whatever. Because Nigeria appears to be towing a sort of an independentist, line when it comes to the conduct and management of international affairs. Donald Trump doesn't like this. Donald Trump wants to be seen as the primus inter pares in international relations. So in this case, this is the second time our president will not be attending. But what does that mean, really? What is it that is in his head for not going? The ideal thing would have been to be there, okay.
Oh dear.
Prof, yes.
Yeah.
Prof, I mean, always a delight to listen to Prof do this analysis. Always a delight to. All right.
And just to imagine what Nigeria. Is Prof back?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Go ahead, Prof. I just conclude on your submission so we can squeeze in more questions, please.
Okay. Yes, I'm trying to say that at the end of the day, when you are seen to be at par with your colleagues, if he is there, in which way are you going to say that Donald Trump is better than Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria? He is not. And I can tell you that Ahmed Tinubu is as intelligent, if not more intelligent than Donald Trump. He's more cautious. He's more strategic in his approach. But when you are absent, then you give rooms for unnecessary speculations, all right? Some people are trying to say that, okay, that was the time Bola Ahmed Tinubu had problems in the US. Is it possible, for instance, that Donald Trump will refuse visa for the Nigerian leader? Who tells you that he cannot do so? Because America had told the whole world that any country that, votes against US interests, that they will sanction such a country. And Nigeria has been voting liberally, democratically, on the basis of our own national interests. So in this case, precaution requires that you don't just take everything for granted, saying you are going to the UN. Shettima, the vice president, is good enough. He can do that. The only problem he has is simply the status of a vice president. So it's not operating at the crescendo. It's semi-crescendo. So that's what is happening.
So, Prof, what may Nigeria be missing with President Tinubu's absence when you consider issues like the visa restrictions for Nigerians, the threat to embark on, corruption against prominent Nigerians, and, of course, the other concern about the release of prisoners? What is Nigeria missing with the absence of President Tinubu's ability to do that one-on-one engagement with President Trump and, indeed, other frontline world leaders?
Well, I do not want to use the word missing. There was the time for strategic calculations. China decided to boycott the whole world, decided to make the domestic setting better, and then come back. What does the UN mean to North Korea, which said is going to embark on nuclear, capacity building? Does the UN not take sanctions against? At a level if we are very serious at the home level, I will say yes, we are not missing anything. But when you look at it again, it is not possible for us to be talking about wanting to be a permanent member and possibly with the right of veto. And then you as the head, you are not there. So that particular respect, the seriousness of purpose, I think we are missing it. Right, we need to have Nigeria's president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with his special cap, the cultural dressing, present Nigeria, all right? When they see him, they know Nigeria is here. So we are missing that particular aspect.
All right, Prof.
Again, what we are missing the aspect. You don't have ambassadors in the diplomatic missions. They are the one to be carrying out, to be engaging in the lobby at the UN. Please, there are always two levels of meetings at the UN. You have the plenary. You have meetings on the sidelines. I've had the opportunity, all right, to be there. When a president is interested in a particular project, idea, policy, you need several officers, ambassadors. They normally convene ambassadors in the region. They will quickly meet, but you don't have ambassadors. You don't have them. So we are missing international prestige. We are missing international respect. So these are very critical. What we are missing is not in terms of material terms and so on and so forth, but tell me who you are and tell me who your friend is, and I will tell you who you are.
Prof.
But now, yes, sir. Yes.
Prof, I'm told that we're absolutely out of time, but maybe in 20 seconds, please, Prof. The fact that 150 countries have recognized the Palestinian states, I wonder what your reaction is. Do you think with this recognition, if it's formalized at the Assembly in New York, perhaps peace will return to the region?
Well, you know, we have recognition of state and we also have recognition of government in international relations. Whether you recognize a state or not, the mere fact that you meet the 4 criteria required to exist, you will always exist. You have territory, you have people, you have government, and you are recognized. The recognition aspect of it is that if you are not recognized, you cannot establish diplomatic ties, but you can still exist. So my take in this particular case is that we now have about 150 countries recognizing, so Palestine will exist. The only thing is that those countries that refuse to recognize it, the United States and Israel, they will not have formal diplomatic relations, and they will exist. However, the existence of the Palestine is still subject to clarity, assured borders. Because what is happening as of today, Israel has encroached on the will-be territory of Palestine, and they continue to make life difficult. However, no matter the small size of the territory, Palestine will exist. Many more countries that have recognized will establish diplomatic ties. So it's better.
All right. We must anchor at this point. There's so many levels to the ongoing debate at the UN General Assembly. We must thank you very much, Professor Bola Akinteriwa, former Director General of the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. Thank you for bringing your expertise and your knowledge base to this conversation, sir.
Thank you. I'm currently with Ashibas University of Ondo State. That's where I lecture.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Of course, we look forward to another engagement with you. And speaking of engagements, let's enjoy the creativity of a Nigerian doing good things in the United Kingdom with photography. Stay with us for this one. You'll be right back.